little drunken hour, hooting out the cloud. Welcome to our live stream, OG After Dark. Little drunken hour, hooting on the cloud. Welcome to our live stream, OG After Dark.
Put those down and crank them up.
Welcome. It's the OG After Dark. Hurricanes take care of business 4-0. They beat the Washington Capitals in Game 3 to take control of this series, do what they're supposed to do after winning one game in D.C. Joining me tonight, no Joe Ovius. He's at a wedding at the beach. Actually, kind of sort of jealous of such things. But instead, it's almost an insult to call him the fill-in. His former governor, Roy Cooper. Now a Harvard professor, ad hoc professor, would we call you that? Was that what you would be?
For another couple of weeks.
Okay, visiting professor.
Then back home.
Even better, though, number one Canes fan, although I did see your successor, Josh Stein, on the second level earlier in the second period today. So
he and I are going to head to the game next, maybe there's another game 6. We'll see.
Yeah, it's starting to think the Hurricanes have control of this series. Look, first period I thought was all about goaltending, Coop, and then second period, Andrei Svechnikov gets things going, and then really the last two periods of this game were the as we've been talking about all this whole playoffs, how the Canes want to play, how they control the puck. Not so much even shot volume tonight with only 28 of them only. Just more puck possession and control. They just strangled. I felt like they just strangled the Capitals tonight. I just feel like total control.
Well, I thought Anderson was the MVP because the early shots that Washington got were amazing. When you have Ovechkin who came off of that face-off on that set play and was right in front of Anderson, that was a big stop. He had a puck jump over his stick. Wide open in front of it wasn't a gaping net because Anderson was there. He didn't leave a gaping net all night. There were a number of great saves in that first period. And had Washington scored one in that first period, I'm not sure we'd see the same game that we saw the rest of the way. I think they knew that Washington playing like they did and they didn't score was a big boost to the team. And I was so proud of them. It was great that Robinson finally got that shot to go in that he'd been shooting with regularity. It was nice to see Roslovic score and Blake with that last one. He's been playing so hard. What a great game all around. First period defensively. Well, defensively throughout this game. Really fantastic. And I don't know about the shots this time. Obviously, we piled them up in the third period. And it wasn't as scattershot as we usually are. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But it was a great game, great hitting. I saw that Wilson had 11 hits tonight, and I loved it when Martinook put him on his ass. I think that was third period. That was a lot of fun.
You're in the spirit. I like this.
No, it was great.
It was influence on you or something, but
it was excellent. No, it was excellent.
Mike Maniscalco, who's going to join us in here a second because of my technical inabilities, but Coop, we began these playoffs thinking, all right, Andrei Svechnikov had a very pedestrian regular season. Maybe he's just a guy who can play a physical game and get in the way, be a nuisance. Tip some shots, score 20 goals like a normal jabroni, not a guy who makes $7.5 million a year, and sometimes that's okay, right? Since then, he's kind of been the Canes' best player. And again, tonight, I thought his goal, his reaction, he got chased down by Wilson at the end of the first period there. It's kind of a shitty hit, in my opinion, but
it was, no question.
Think about that growth and the arc for Svech. That first year, the rookie year, he's in the playoffs, and he somehow ends up in a fight with Ovechkin. Well, this time
it only took one punch.
Right. But this time there's no physical reaction. It's what Rod Brindamore preaches all the time. The response is in the handshake line. And I really thought, just as Wilson asserted himself in game 2 and was the force in game 2, really thought Svech was the force in.
And it was such an alert play off of the face-off for him to score that goal. He was all over it, and just a beautiful, beautiful shot.
Coop, you're a basketball guy by trade, so you understand this. I always try to tell coaches, like, if you don't draw up a play, Dean Smith style, hold up the fingers, invent the tired signal. Dean was such a genius. He invented huddles and the tired signal. Sorry, I didn't mean to take a shot at your alma mater there, the icon of your alma mater there. But yeah, I kind of sort of did. If you don't overtly coach on the sidelines, fans in this area think, well, what is that guy doing? He's not Dean Smith. He's not Jim Valdano. He's not Mike Krzyzewski. Well, when you score off a drawn-up play like that, all of a sudden, these Canes fans are going to be like, well, why didn't you call up the Sneaky Pete? Why didn't you call the face-off red dog, right? Banana zebra, So I think Rod may have created a monster with that set play goal. That's my only concern for him going forward.
Yeah, those things work sometime. And Ovechkin's set play goal where he charged the net and almost scored, that was Anderson's big play of the night. And some things, when those set plays work, they are a thing of beauty. But you're right. We're not. I don't think we're that much of a set play team. We just get it on the net. That's what we have to do. Get it on the net, get some rebounds. Watch Brent Burns break his stick on a major slap shot, and here we go.
You got to play your game. Everyone knows the Canes when they get to their game, especially in this building. Second period, 2P Canes are back. Shout out to everyone gambling on the money line. Thanks again, Gov, for making sure that legislation got through while you were still in office. So appreciate you for doing that. Although my tax guy might say otherwise, but you were here for me. I don't want to end on that kind of note. But I'm going to get you out of here on this because for technical reasons, Mike will not be able to hear you. But I want to give you. I'll let you talk to Mike here in a second because he does want to say hi, and I know you're a big fan as well. Sometimes we've seen this now since 7 years in a row. Sometimes the second round goes quickly. Sometimes it goes quickly, and I don't think it's 5 games, but it might be. Coop, if you're the Canes and you've now played 3 games and you've dominated in 2 of them, you've got to be feeling pretty good about your chances of picking up the next 2 wins that you need to move back into the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think you do, but they cannot let down 1 inch because these teams are evenly matched. Washington led the league. They have amazing offensive players. Ovechkin still has it. They can jump on you quick and get you quick, and we cannot take anything for granted here because even though we've gained home ice advantage, we can lose it with the snap of the finger. And so I'm not comfortable saying 5 games. I mean, this is a series that can easily go 7.
Okay, Coop, appreciate you taking some time. I'm going to let you.
Yes, sir.
Let you say hello to Mike Mascalco because he's been looking forward to seeing you. But I got to give
My
Mike.
bro.
I got to give Mike my earbuds like we're in the 8th grade dance here. So hang on one second.
You can just set it down and then we can share this way.
I got to get you a better camera angle too.
No,
so
that's
hold
fine.
me.
Oh my goodness, Governor, this is great. And it's funny. I always wondered why politicians or athletes blame people in the media. And just sitting here now, I understand why you have every right to say all the things you said. But what a performance here tonight from the Canes. I know there's the first period for me, and I know that you probably dissected it the same way. Sometimes you need your goalie to bail you out. Sometimes you need somebody to be there for you. That was Frederik Andersen. And then once they weathered that storm, no pun, being the Hurricanes, they really found a way to take over this game.
They did that, and Joe and I just discussed that we thought the first period was key. Washington not scoring when they had so many chances, but Andersen stopped them. That made a huge difference, and the game may not have been the same otherwise. So it's great to see the way we played tonight with a purpose. We've got to keep it up though, and it's so hard in the NHL. So hard. I mean, seeing Martinook take that puck tonight and knowing that he's going to need more than probably ibuprofen for the next game. But these guys are right back on the ice. It's just truly extraordinary. When Kokaniemi gets hit in the face the other night and gets 10 stitches and then is back on the ice for the celebration.
Yeah. And it's right above the eye. I'd still be in the locker room if that was me.
I'm out for 2 months with that. 2 months, So
all right.
these guys are amazing.
Let me ask you before Joe Giglio unceremoniously jettons you here. I'd keep you on instead of me because trust me, I've done a whole period with Governor Cooper. I know he knows more hockey than I do. So
I got to get back in the box with you and Tripp next year.
Come on, we'll keep. You've got an open invite, and now that you're a professor at his alma mater. How can we not have you in there?
He gave me all the good eats place, but you can get out for under $10 in all of the places that Tripp gave me. So that's the great thing.
Let's see. There's one thing about my partner. He knows a good deal when he can find it. But I just want to pick your brain on one more thing before
all right,
you're gone here. So what do you think is going to be the biggest key for game number 4 for the Canes to take a 3-1 series lead? Is it surviving a first period? Is it special teams? And what's your read for game 4?
When we score first, we're in command, and I think they're going to be coming at us very early on Monday night, and we have to be ready for that onslaught. And it's great that we have Freddie Anderson there and ready to go. He is in top form right now. And, you don't like injuries, but, maybe that couple of months off for Freddie in the middle of the season, as fragile as he can be sometime, that might end up being a good thing. And that's what we Presbyterians do. We look for good things out of bad. And I think that right now, Freddie's at his peak and ready to play. And when you have a top form goalie, you can win that thing at the end that we're not going to say. So I'm looking forward to that.
And there we go. Now we're back, I think.
Yeah, I lost you there a minute, Mike.
No, but we got you. It's funny because you said you're Presbyterian. That's what you do. I'm Catholic. So the other side of that, we've got a new pope who is a big Chicagoan. So I'm just going to say we do what Catholics do. We take the worst and then somehow just explain it to everybody. That's what makes us better. So it works okay when it's all said and done.
It works okay. Exactly.
Always great to talk to you. You've got an invite next year to our booth on FanDuel.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Governor Coop. Oh, you just hung up on him then.
I removed him that time.
Oh my gosh, Governor, I'm sorry. Here, you can take your headsets back.
A lot of comments in here. What I want to get to, and I think you were saying this with Coop, the Martin Nook hit.
Yeah.
There's this. I've bristled a little bit about this year when people say, "Oh, the Canes, they're sandpaper and tougher and blah blah blah." They're plenty tough. They're plenty physical.
Yeah.
It's not like they get pushed around.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I get it, but you get some of the Timo Meyer goalie interference stuff or whatever else in the past. Marchand, who I feel like is still hanging out there on the horizon. But I just thought the response, to Wilson tonight in particular, was picture perfect. Yeah.
And look, that's how you have to deal with it. Look, Tom Wilson's going to be a factor. And we saw it in game number 2.
He almost scored in the first 2 minutes of this game, by the way.
And
it might have been Freddie Anderson's most important save of the night.
Yeah, that and then the Ovechkin save out in front. Those are the two that are really the highlight for me in the first period, because this is a game where if the Caps, I think, get in front of it, Joe, if the Caps find a way to get in front of what they've been doing, especially this series, how tight it's been defensively, you don't want to chase. It's just almost impossible to chase in this league, at least in the Eastern Conference. But when Washington tries to do some of those things that people point the finger to, like this is what Tom Wilson does, Ovechkin who goes for those big hits. The thing is, you can't let it take you out of your game. You can't. And in the playoffs, I know it's the old adage, but you have to hit first. You can't respond to those things, because if you do, tonight, I have no idea about penalties, but, the second guy always gets caught. You know this from covering sports. So what I liked is in Washington, you saw Stahl put Wilson into the boards, into the bench cleanly. You saw Martin Nook put a guy into the bench cleanly, and Connor McMichael. Like, that's what you're looking for. You saw Burns truck Alex Ovechkin in the first period. So again, I've always laughed at this, misnomer that the Canes aren't a physical team. Well, they don't have hits. Well, the reason why they don't is because they possess the
They
puck.
have the puck the whole game.
The whole game.
Yeah.
For the majority of it. So
let me guess what the faceoff numbers were tonight. Markedly better.
let
me guess.
They were. Yeah, that makes a difference. Although it's funny, like in the first period, we're sitting there looking at it like, oh man, the Canes. The one thing about faceoffs, and I heard you in former Governor Cooper talking about it with the Svechnikov thing in the set play. The funny thing about faceoffs to me it becomes you don't have to win every faceoff. I mean, it's great if you do. That eliminates everything. But sometimes it's the faceoffs you win when you win them. At the end of a penalty kill, you win the draw so you can clear it, or to start a power play. In that instance, the Canes needed to get a spark. They have that play where Andrei Svechnikov dives in. Everybody thinks that faceoff wins are all on the center. They're not. It's everybody who's on the ice is involved in it. And the Canes tonight, when they needed to win the draws, they did. And that was a big difference. And Frederik Andersen is just, from game 1 against New Jersey to all of the games he's played, has been the best goaltender in the postseason. The numbers bear that out.
All right, question here from Harry on the comments. Dr. Giglio, why have the Canes been slow to start the first 10 minutes of period 1? Now, I talked about this on the podcast earlier in the week, that for the most part, in general, 10,000-foot sweeping overview takes. The Canes are really good in the second period because they are a slow starting team, and it's a response to the slow start. I wonder, though, if the style has a cumulative effect, and that's part of their problem with starting quickly, if you will. Because the puck possession has to wear you down. The shot volume has to wear you down. Chasing the game the way that they make you chase the game has to be something to wear you down. Now, I will say there's a difference between dominating and scoring, dominating the possession of the game and the flow of the game, and dominating on the scoreboard. I think there are a lot of times the Hurricanes can be the one dominating possession and the flow of the game, but not on the scoreboard.
Right. This is going to be, and it might be a terrible analogy, so call me on it.
All right.
But I know that you work with Ovius every day, so it probably is not going to be the worst that you've heard.
Well, we're seeing Ovius's value in real fucking time tonight.
Hey, we're not.
So I apologize.
We're not talking about technology. He's always been ahead of the curve on that.
Always.
God,
I'm
when
sweating.
he goes back and watches
I'm
this one,
sweating like a whore in
you
church
truly
right now.
are.
Dear
You truly
God.
are. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I might watch a guy have a stroke in real time. We're back. Stop. Pitcher, and this is again, but Greg Maddux, I remember it like that Braves pitching staff, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro, get to him in the first inning, because when they settle in, you're not getting to them.
Yeah, you're guessing and you're reacting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that the Canes are a little like that. And I hate doing these, I hate there's a certain guy, it's an awful lot like, no, it's not. It is what it is. But I think sometimes in sport, the way that a team gets into a rhythm or a groove, that they need a minute or two to establish this is what we do, this is how we're going to do it. And I think the opposition knows it too. There's no secrets now. So the other guys in the other uniforms get paid. And the other coaches are probably like, look, we got to get to them early. Yeah. We got to jump on this early. We got to get the pucks in on them, force them to do this. And that could be why. It's one of those things. If I had the answer, I'd be behind.
Sure.
I'd be on the coaching staff and I'd be fixing these things. But for me, I just think it's a little bit like that, where sometimes when this is what we're going to do in the course of a game, to get to that start right away, it's kind of like, you want to get it going right off the hop, but the other team gets paid to play too.
Yeah. I joked about this in game one. Are you surprised Alex Ovechkin has not been a bigger factor in this series? And I get it. You don't have to score to have an impact on the outcome of the game. But newsflash, he's the leading scorer in the history of the fucking league, and he doesn't have a goal. But, so, I mean, you could sit here and tell me he's setting, if we're going to continue with basketball and baseball analogies, you could tell me he's doing the little things and saving runs at fucking shortstop, or he's setting great screens or whatever. But I just don't see a way for Washington to win hockey games without Alex Ovechkin scoring goals.
I do not want to denigrate the greatest goal scorer that this league's ever seen.
Nor am I. I'm just pointing out that
at this point now, Joe, that's his value.
Yeah.
And if he's not doing that, he can't impact the game the way that he used to when he was younger, where he would run around and deliver bone-rattling hits and change the tenor of the game he was a force of nature. His first few years in the league, where he didn't have to score goals, just the threat of him being on the ice. And now the power play, the Canes have done a good job of taking it away from him. But this is a thing for me that I was in the first period tonight. I was worried because I went, oh boy, that looks like the Alex Ovechkin who can get into the places to score goals. It looks like the guy who can have an impact. They've played now, if you include overtime, although there wasn't a ton of it, we've had 9 periods plus 6 minutes of hockey. And I would tell you, in the first 2 games in DC, he had maybe 3 shifts that you noticed him. He at least had about 5 or 6 in the first period tonight where you noticed him. But then as the game wore on, he was looking for penalties, like getting hit and turning around. I'm like, no, that's not how it goes.
If I'm coaching the Capitals, I put Wilson back with him, right? I mean, that's probably the easiest type of fixes.
Because here, now you want to try to find. So for all of the hand-wringing about the Canes not scoring goals, the Washington Capitals have only scored 3 goals in this series with a goaltender in the pipes.
And because 2 of them were like super clean, great shots on somewhat of a defensive breakdown.
One is an unbelievable power play goal in game 2 where they move it around and Carlson sneaks in. The other one that you look at is the Protas shot. You love that a lot more than I do looking back on it. But over all of that, I look at how this series has been played, and the Canes, outside of the first period tonight, have really not given Washington anything consistently. They've had some good high danger chances, but overall, that's it. Okay. I know there's Luke DeCock ready to go.
Actually,
I'm going to just
the people want Mike and Luke to fight, I think, but no, I know.
No, here we go.
Watch this handoff.
How long have you been on? Tell me right now.
Trust me, it's been
I've been
hours.
Sitting here for 30 minutes watching somebody try to use technology, and it's fun.
That has no business trying to use technology.
That's it.
Yes.
Lord.
All right. Yes. I'm tapping in here, Michael.
It's a hot tag.
While you guys do that,
we're changing on the fly.
Big thanks to our friends at Bloomin Blinds. Appreciate them. I know they're probably not super proud of this technological effort tonight, but you should be calling them 919-980-9815. Not only will they install blinds if you're moving into a house or moving out, they can fix blinds. And as someone who owns 2 dogs, and Luke is a dog owner too, my stupid dogs love to crash in to the blinds anytime they hear a car, and I'm sitting here going, Chris, I don't know how to fix anything.
You got a screen contractor too?
Yeah.
I could use one of those.
Yeah, Chris, I'm like, I don't know any of this stuff, and please come and help me. So if you guys are in that situation, please give Bloomin Blinds a call, 919-980-9815. All right, Chris. All right, Luke.
Hold on. I want to pick up on what Mike was saying.
Yeah, please.
Let's do an actual change on the fly.
Yeah, please.
To Ovechkin tonight. 29-year-old Alex Ovechkin has 2 goals in the first period.
Yes.
He is washed.
I was going to say, I think his age, there's a little bit of Mike Tyson. No, there's a little bit of Mike Tyson there.
Yeah.
In the sense that, God, he intimidated people when he was younger.
Yeah.
Like, think back to 2019, just 6 years ago. Like it was, you looked over your shoulder and you knew.
Yeah.
I think, Joe has talked a little bit about how he thought the chase would affect the Capitals.
Yeah.
And I agree, but I thought it was more organic. I was here on 4-2. I think you were here too. And I was put off by, they acted like, breaking like one of the most important records in hockey was almost like a nuisance that there were people here to talk about it. and they're set up in this in the press conference. They didn't want to tell any stories. They just lost the game. I'm thinking to myself, hey, buddy, just 2 years ago, you're on a dog shit team. You could have been chasing history on a dog shit team,
on a 30-50 team
on
or
a
whatever.
string of 82 meaningless games,
72-point seasons.
So how about a little bit more grace as you pursue this record? I was happy to see when he said it, and the whole ceremony with Gretzky, I thought was amazing. Do you think there's anything to the energy he had to expend to set that record? Or is that a ESPN first take hot take?
No, I think there's something to it. And in fact, I'm on the record saying this. I thought they were going to lose to the Canadians in part because of that.
That's right.
And we talked about that. We remember you said, and they're going to play the Caps in the next round. And I said, not so fast, my friend. And I think if Montembeault had not gotten hurt, that the Habs would have had a better chance. The other guy was fine, but he wasn't the same kind of goalie that got them into the playoffs. And the Capitals really, I thought, did a good job in that series of sort of getting over the hump and imposing their will. But yeah, I thought the mental energy expended trying to get the record
like every night.
And there's a lot of mental energy that goes. It's teams that struggle to make the playoffs. Now some of them, like the Blues that one year, get in and go on a run, or the Hurricanes in 2002. You scrape your way in, whatever. Although the Hurricanes won the division in 2002, not that it was the world's greatest division, but everybody has a finite amount of energy. It's like what Rob Brenner was talking about in the press conference tonight. You have injuries matter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Games come down to a play or two. You lose 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys. Suddenly you're not making those plays. And we've certainly seen that with the Hurricanes. So I do think that was a factor. That said, this is still one of the great players of all time. And he had more chances tonight than he had in either of the first 2 games, but he still couldn't finish. If I were the Capitals, that would concern me. I'll tell you one other thing before you make that point.
Yeah.
Spencer Carberry said something that I thought was very revealing. He said, we can't play from behind because we don't have the firepower to catch up. That's a coach with Protas, with Strome, and with the all-time NHL leading goal scorer saying we can't. That says a lot about where their head is right now.
I also get that they have different styles, but they were a super deep team this year. But we've seen this with the Hurricanes before. Chychrun with 20-something goals. McMichael with 20-something goals.
You love mentioning Chychrun and McMichael
goals. But what I'm saying is, it's the way a team is built. I always say this about the Hurricanes. Yeah. They're like the Yankees. They're built for the regular season.
Right.
They're not built for the postseason. And sometimes you go on a sun run and you get goals from a Chychrun. You get goals from a McMichael. You get goals from a Niederreiter. You get goals from, but Dougie Hamilton that don't translate into the postseason. Yeah. I think every Canes fan out there can raise their hand. It's Natchez, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Poor bastard couldn't score a goal in the playoffs if you put it right in front of the fucking net for him.
But let me ask you a question. Sometimes you get guys who can finish. How many goals does Roslovic have in the playoffs? Am I jumping your point?
And that's where I'm saying tonight, when you mentioned the injuries, Roslovic on the power play. And I think this is where Ovechkin, breaking news. I know you love this. Giglio, hockey analyst, you love this shit. Ovechkin is the all-time leading scorer on the power play as well. When he scored here on 4-2, it was on a 5-on-3. That was the only fucking way he was going to score that night, because Slavin and everyone else made it their point to say, you can have your name in the record book. You ain't putting your name next to ours. We're not going to be the Dodgers on Hank Aaron's highlight. We're not going to be Eric Shaw giving up the hit to Pete Rose. They made it a point. And I think the Canes
stuff.
Oh, I'm very good on this.
The Celtics giving up 63 to Michael.
He was God. He was Jesus playing basketball. The
Hornets giving up 58 or whatever it was to Michael for the Wizards.
I love the way that they've reacted to Washington's power play.
Okay.
And it's funny because that's where Ovechkin's production comes from. You expect him to be at that left circle. You expect to see those gold laces. You expect to see the puck in the net. And I think it can be almost as simple as a scouting report and adjustment. I gave credit to Washington in how they adjusted to the Hurricanes power play, which was clicking on every cylinder against New Jersey. I think we've now seen a reaction from Rod on the Canes power play, because now we've seen them score in consecutive games with the extra man. Luke, you know this. You're not going to put your name on that Stanley Cup without scoring on the special teams.
Yeah. And if you'll notice on the Washington's power plays in this series, Ovechkin, really after game 1, I'd have to really go back and look to totally nail this down. But certainly tonight and the second half of game 2 has not spent a lot of time in his office. They've moved him around a lot. And in part, so the Hurricanes can't just put Jacob Slavin on that side. They can't just put Jordan Stahl on that side. They can't just put Seth Jarvis on that side. People who can get to him and take away that shot. So they've had to move him around to get space. And that's what happens in the playoffs, right? 82-game regular season. The team comes in, you got 6 hours and one meeting, get ready for their power play. Ovechkin over there. But most of the time, some guys out there is like, oh, crap, we're playing Ovechkin tonight, and the puck's already in the net. Playoff series, you know everybody. Everybody knows you. You know the systems. They've been broken down. They've been doing it for 3 games now. So, yeah, there's a lot of adjustments going on. But the Capitals have not found a way to get Ovechkin good shots on the power play yet. And that's a credit to the Hurricanes penalty killing, which, as we all know, was the best in the league.
I know you have to write, but there is one question here. I think I probably already know the answer, but did we get a post-game update on Martinook on the shot that he took? That
Rod
he
said there's a I mean, he came back for one shift and went to the room. Rod said there's a couple guys that we're gonna have to wait on updates on.
Okay.
I think Jankowski is healthy. The decision I believe was to leave Roslovic in, and obviously it's a good one. I think there's a lot of evidence for a Jankowski on the road, Roslovic at home scenario when everybody's healthy, just because of matchups. And you can, they did a good job tonight when they shuffled the lines in the second period of getting Roslovic out against matchups where he could make hay. I do want to say, Mike kind of handled a lot of the big picture stuff before I got up here. I do think you can make the argument that the Capitals threw everything they had against the Hurricanes in the first period.
Yes.
Every single thing they had against the Hurricanes. And when that happens and it doesn't work, and we've seen this with the Hurricanes in the playoffs, and the other team answers and they kick your butt, that can end a series.
Can be demoralizing.
That can be a series ender.
The save of the night was in the first 2 minutes of the game. Wilson comes in alone. If he scores there, that Capitals bench is ready to pounce and eat, and it's a long night. That
Freddie
was a
saved their
huge
bacon, unquestionably.
save in the first period of this game, mentally for the Hurricanes. And to your point, once the Hurricanes take control of the game, you can't knock them off it.
Yeah,
you cannot let them get the lead like that, especially in this building.
How about some history tonight too? Kirk Muller finally saw a playoff game inside this arena. I like Kirk.
You were sitting on that one. That was a good one.
That's what happens when I bat second here. I got to make sure Mike doesn't steal all my anecdotes when I come on.
Well, I hoard these sheets and I keep them at my desk. And it was April 3rd that I looked. I was like, shit, man, Kirk Muller's an assistant.
Honestly, I literally had totally forgotten that till I saw him on the bench. I was like, oh, there's Kirk Muller. Nothing against Kirk. That was a dark, dark time for this franchise for many, many reasons.
And let's be honest, in many ways, Kirk wasn't as bad as Bill Peters.
I would agree with that.
Like, I mean, just from the two captains to whatever other problematic issues that Bill Peters had. I mean, I think Kirk Muller was just a classic.
I'm gonna have to schedule an emergency therapy session tonight. I mean, it's just Ovechkin. I think there was a couple big picture takeaways from this game. Number one is the Hurricanes have a goal. You can win them games in the postseason, which we haven't been able to say very often.
Yes.
Healthy Freddie is doing it. I really do believe that knee surgery in November, whenever it was, has helped with this. Number two, that's the kind of game that can break a team.
Yep.
And, look, man, I think we have to ask this question, Joe. I think this is very important. The Capitals out-Corsied the Hurricanes in the first period.
Oh.
Do we need think pieces about whether their shot volume approach works in the postseason? Do we need 4 NHL.com writers here to ask about their shot volume approach?
So what do you think tripped Rod about that? Because he keeps score pretty well. He knew where it was from
Friday.
Yeah, but he knew because it was from the league itself.
No,
or do you think it was more of the topic itself? Or
I think
and give a little context because
So
I don't know all of it.
Friday at Invisalign, it's not the reporter's fault, but the reporter from NHL.com asked Rod, basically the question was, not in so many words, it boiled down was, you just lost game 2. Do you think your shot volume approach works in the playoffs? And Rod goes, shot volume approach? Like, what does that even mean? Everybody's trying to get shots on net. Now, obviously, we all know the Hurricanes are focused on getting quantity of shots on net, and other teams may wait for a different, we don't need to get into this. But the significance of this, as you were pointing out, is Rod has finally snapped at the quote-unquote narrative, the hashtag narrative, that the Hurricanes can't win in the playoffs because they can't score, because they don't take good shots and they can't finish them. I think tonight was a great example. Roslovic, Svechnikov, and Robinson in particular, and nothing against Blake's goal, but those 3 goals were goal scorers' goals, right?
Yes.
Svechnikov, it's a face-off loss. He jumps the puck. He beats Carlson, their best defenseman, to the puck. spots a window. Now, remember, Logan Thompson has his glove on the right hand. This is a backwards thing. This is like hitting a lefty.
Yeah.
So how many shots have they fired into his mitt in this series? Those are all shots you're going high blocker on a goalie. You can't get his arm up. It's hard, man. It's like hitting a lefty's
Retraining your
curveball.
brain.
It goes the wrong way. Svech on that one went blocker side, and he could not get the blocker in front of it. Very narrow window, short side, in tight. He finds that spot. Roslovic's goal on the power play. Has time to cock and fire, pick a spot, has time and space, beats him short side again. Now, that's glove side, but short side on that side of the ice. Robinson's goal. Where does he beat him? High blocker. Rolls right. Either rolls right up the blocker and into the back of the net, or right over the blocker in the back of the net. Those are goal scorers' goals. Those are the chances the Hurricanes in years past fired into the goalie's logo. Bobrovsky, he doesn't stop those shots, but he stops the shots they put on Bobrovsky. So I think part of the reason Rod is bristling at the narrative is he thinks it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can debate it. That's what we do, right? That's why we get paid so much money.
It feels
That's why we're so rich.
Yeah, but I feel like it's personal at this point with him, because while we think of the Canes Brain Trust as a collective, and no doubt it is, I think the way that the Canes play, obviously, is there's a lot of Peter Laviolette in there.
Yeah.
A lot. But Rod's put his own, almost like a Roy Williams, Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Right?
And the analytics folks, because it meshes with what they
augmented.
wanted.
Yeah.
Well, and they're also
I still think it's Rod's style.
But it meshes with the idea that, if you look at expected goals or whatever, your best chance to score is to actually shoot the puck.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Yeah, that's, but I know that sounds stupid, right? That's like saying, that's like what we said the other night, right? The Hurricanes are allowing too many goals and not scoring enough, and that's why they're not winning. But yeah, no, but the point is, your chances of scoring goals does improve. Not denominator.
The more chances you take. Yeah.
The multiplier there, I can't remember the mathematical term, is your finishing ability. I think this team has slightly better finishing ability than the last couple. And maybe in 23, it's different if Svechnikov and Pacioretty are healthy. Maybe it's probably not different last year if Jesper Fast is healthy, but nothing against him. It's just he's not going to be the guy who finishes a bunch of shots. But, I think you've had Roslovic, who has his faults as a player, and there's a reason why they were a better team with Jankowski in there on the road. But Roslovic at home, when you can put him in the right spots, finishes. He scores goals. When Svech is playing like this, and people have been waiting for 7 years for Svech to play like this, when he's putting these games together consistently, he's a weapon. Now, obviously, the Aho situation is a little concerning. You would like to see more production from him, and Rod said as much this morning. But I did think when they flipped the lines around, that line was better when they put Jarvis back with those guys. Nothing against Jackson Blake, who, by the way, ends up scoring on the power play and on a line that ended up scoring what may have been the biggest goal of the game to make it 3-0 and put it away. You got a comment, don't you?
Yeah, it's from our guy Thief of Orange. Is your best players got to be your best players.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
they got to make shots. And then Ken,
and it's a game of runs.
Ken wisely saying, Thief of Oranges, please don't make Joe make a change now, because it will kill the After Dark. Listen, people, if I could only explain to you what the real problem was here, I would. But truth of the matter is, not my best effort. I get that. But I appreciate not only Roy Cooper, but Mike Maniscalco and Luke DeCock for taking the time. OVS will be back on Monday. And I am just going to say, thank goodness. Because, yeah.
I will talk to you guys from Amelia Island on Tuesday, I believe.
Okay. So you will not be here on Monday.
I will be with Charlie Baker and Jim Phillips and all the wonderful
folks
of the ACC.
I'm glad you're going, and you can represent the ghost of Debbie Yao and say you're going to NC State, North Carolina, not playing twice a year anymore. All right.
They could, though. That's the thing about the format.
That's true.
I mean, they could,
but it won't be every year.
There's no reason. Well, it may alternate between Carolina and Duke, but you're still going to have you're one of those two. You're going to have two games. There's no chance State ends up with like Syracuse as its rotating partner. There's no chance.
We'll see.
ESPN does not want that. The biggest ESPN, the rivalry, this. What rivalry does ESPN care about most?
Syracuse and Duke.
Syracuse and Duke. The flying nun, Jim Boeheim running on the court.
Oh, my gosh. All right, guys. Thank you so much for everything. We will see you on Monday. The Canes are in control of this series. I am clearly not in control of this technology.
Little drunken hour, hooted out the cloud. Welcome to our live stream. OG After Dark. Rooted on the clock. Welcome to our live stream.